We are counting down 10 flashpoints that turned the 2021 Formula One season into a war. High-speed crashes, race control controversies, strategic warfare between two teams, and a finale so explosive it tore the sport apart. From opening salvos to a last-lap title heist decided under the most disputed circumstances in motorsport history, this is the definitive countdown. It begins at number 10 with a collision course years in the making. In 10th place, the seeds of the 2021 rivalry were sown long before the first lights went out. Max Verstappen, who stunned the paddock as a 17-year-old prodigy with Toro Rosso in 2015, arrived in Bahrain as the face of Red Bull's resurgence. On the other side stood Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion with more poles and wins than anyone in history, defending his throne against the fastest challenger yet. The stakes shifted in pre-season testing. Red Bull's RB16B tore through the desert, clocking laps within 0.2 of the Mercedes W12. Christian Horner declared, "We have a car that is genuinely competitive," while Toto Wolff, usually unflappable, admitted the fight would be fierce from the very first race. The gap had closed. Aggression met mastery, youth met legacy, and with both teams locked on pace, the stage was set for a generational collision, one that would ignite in Bahrain and never relent. Number 9. Bahrain delivered the first shockwave. With just 5 laps to go, Verstappen hunted Hamilton down, the Red Bull glued to the Mercedes rear wing. On lap 53, Max lunged around the outside of turn 4, snatching the lead but with all 4 wheels off track. Instantly, race control ordered the position be given back. The radio crackled with disbelief from both camps, frustration boiling over as Verstappen slowed to let Hamilton through. The margin at the flag just 0.745 seconds. Hamilton drew first blood, 25 points to Verstappen's 18. The message was clear: every inch, every call, every move would be contested. The rivalry had erupted. 8th place at Paul Ricard became the first real turning point in the championship fight. With just 2 laps to go, Verstappen's Red Bull closed relentlessly on Hamilton's Mercedes, both drivers nursing worn tyres after a tense, high-speed chess match. Red Bull had rolled the dice on an aggressive 2-stop undercut, sacrificing track position for fresh rubber, while Mercedes stuck with track position and hoped Hamilton could hold on. On lap 52, Verstappen surged past at turn 8, the move surgical, the timing devastating. Hamilton's radio crackled with frustration as the points swung. Verstappen's lead jumped to 12, and for the first time, Red Bull had outfoxed Mercedes on pure strategy. The psychological balance shifted. The rivalry was no longer just about raw speed, now it was a battle of wits, and Red Bull had landed a decisive blow. Number 7, Silverstone detonated the rivalry in a way no one could have predicted. On the opening lap at Copse, Verstappen and Hamilton charged side by side at over 300 km per hour, refusing to yield. The slightest touch sent Verstappen's Red Bull spinning into the barriers with a staggering 51G impact. The crash data revealed a deceleration so violent it triggered every alarm in the FIA telemetry. Verstappen's car destroyed, the monocoque absorbing the force. The driver left dazed and sent straight to the hospital under concussion protocol. A 30-minute red flag followed as marshals rebuilt the shattered barrier and the world held its breath. In the steward's room, the debate raged. Hamilton was handed a 10-second penalty for causing a collision, yet he served it and still fought back to win on home soil. As Verstappen lay in a hospital bed, Mercedes celebrated in front of a divided crowd. The fallout was instant and ferocious. Red Bull were furious, fans split. The rivalry was now deeply personal. Silverstone was no longer just a race, it was a declaration of war, transforming the championship from tactical chess into a brutal, physical fight for supremacy. Number 6, Spa and Zandvoort delivered a whiplash of chaos and euphoria that kept the title fight on a razor's edge. At Spa-Francorchamps, rain hammered the circuit, visibility vanished, and after just 2 laps behind the safety car, the FIA declared the race over, awarding only half points. Verstappen, who had seized pole in treacherous conditions, took 12.5 points, and Hamilton, boxed in on the wet grid, managed 9 points. The gap shrank to just 3 points, frustration boiling over as drivers and fans questioned the rules. 1 week later, the scene flipped. Zandvoort erupted in a sea of orange as Verstappen dominated his home Grand Prix, leading from pole to flag. The Dutch crowd's roar shook the dunes, and Verstappen's flawless drive reclaimed the championship lead by half a point. In the span of 2 weekends, fortune swung swung wildly, weather chaos at Spa, then a home soil triumph that reignited Verstappen's momentum and set the rivalry ablaze. Number 5, Monza delivered the most unforgettable image of the Verstappen versus Hamilton war, a tangle of carbon fiber, two championship contenders stacked in a heap at the first chicane, lap 26. Verstappen lunged for the inside, Hamilton squeezed from the outside, and in a split second, wheels locked and the Red Bull launched over the Mercedes. Verstappen's rear tyre came to rest atop Hamilton's roll hoop, the halo saving the champion's head by centimeters. Both cars were immobilized, both drivers were out, and neither car finished the race. The radio erupted with fury, accusations flew between the pit walls, the stewards poured over replays and telemetry, ultimately placing most of the blame on Verstappen with a 3-place grid penalty for Russia. No points changed hands, no ground was gained. It was a scorched earth reset. The rivalry's brutality was now headline news. The championship balance wiped clean in a single shocking instant. Monza became the symbol of mutual destruction, fueling the fire for the final charge to Abu Dhabi. Number 4, the rivalry entered a new phase as Red Bull unleashed a relentless tactical campaign across Russia, the United States, and Mexico. In Sochi, Verstappen mastered the chaos of a wet-dry Russian Grand Prix, gambling on slicks just as the rain returned, surging from the back of the grid to snatch a podium and keep the pressure on Mercedes. The pit wall split-second call in Austin flipped the script again. Verstappen's aggressive tyre offset forced Hamilton into a defensive strategy, with Red Bull's 2-stop outmaneuvering Mercedes 1-stop, and Verstappen holding off a late charge to take victory. Then came Mexico City, where Red Bull's Honda power unit thrived in the thin air. Verstappen seized pole and dominated the race, extending his lead to 19 points. Each weekend, Red Bull's calculated risk-taking, pit wall precision, and Verstappen's clinical execution built a buffer that left Mercedes scrambling. The championship balance shifted, not with a crash, but with a series of strategic masterstrokes that set the stage for a desperate Hamilton fight back in Brazil. Coming to the top 3, Interlagos became the arena for Hamilton's most astonishing act of defiance. Disqualified from Friday qualifying for a DRS infringement, he was sent to the back of the grid for the sprint, position 20, with the championship hanging by a thread. On Saturday, he clawed through the field, overtaking 15 cars in just 24 laps, the crowd in Sao Paulo roaring with every move. But the real miracle played out on Sunday. Starting 10th after a further grid penalty, Hamilton launched a relentless assault, dispatching Red Bulls and Ferraris alike, executing 24 overtakes in total. By lap 59, he swept past Verstappen, sealing one of the greatest comebacks in Formula One history. The gap in the standings shrank to just 14 points, and the balance of power lurched back to Mercedes. In Brazil, Hamilton didn't just win a race, he reignited the title fight and rewrote what resilience looks like under fire. Number 2, Jeddah delivered the most volatile flashpoint of the entire season, a race that spiraled into chaos and left the World Championship in a mathematical deadlock. With the title on the line, Verstappen and Hamilton clashed in a sequence that blurred the line between racing and warfare. On lap 37, Verstappen was told to yield position after a disputed overtake at turn 1. But as he slowed on the racing line approaching turn 27, Hamilton, caught off guard by inconsistent radio calls, plowed into the back of the Red Bull, shattering Hamilton's front wing end plate and leaving Verstappen's rear floor scarred. The radio erupted with confusion and accusation. Hamilton barked, "He just brake tested me." Verstappen's engineer insisted we were told to let him by. Stewards poured over telemetry and transcripts, ultimately handing Verstappen a 5-second penalty for what they called erratic braking. Both cars survived, battered but running, and crossed the line second and third. When the timing sheet updated, the numbers flashed. Verstappen, 369.5 points. Hamilton, 369.5 points. For the first time in Formula One history, 2 title contenders entered the final race locked in a perfect tie. Jeddah was not just a race, it was a boiling point, a procedural storm that set up the most high-stakes, all-or-nothing finale the sport had ever seen. And finally, in first place, Abu Dhabi delivered the most explosive and disputed finale in Formula One history. With 5 laps to go, Lewis Hamilton held a commanding lead of 19.6 seconds, his Mercedes on worn medium tyres and the championship seemingly in his grasp. But when Latifi crashed at turn 14, chaos erupted. The safety car erased Hamilton's advantage in seconds. Red Bull, sensing a miracle, called Verstappen in for fresh soft tyres, while Mercedes gambled, leaving Hamilton out, track position their only shield. Then came the call that would define a generation. Race director Michael Massey allowed only the 5-lapped cars between Hamilton and Verstappen to unlap themselves, leaving the rest stranded. The world held its breath. 1 lap, 1 shot, everything on the line. As the safety car peeled away, Verstappen launched his attack. Into turn 5 he dived, soft tyres biting, Hamilton powerless on old rubber. In a single breathtaking move, Verstappen snatched the lead and the title. The checkered flag fell, but the controversy was just beginning. Mercedes filed protests, the stewards convened, and the FIA rulebook was thrust into the spotlight. Verstappen's points total was 395.5 to Hamilton's 387.5. The fallout triggered immediate reforms, rewriting the rules for how Formula One decides its greatest prize. Abu Dhabi was more than a finish, it was a seismic rupture, the final fateful punch in a season-long heavyweight brawl. Across every flashpoint, one pattern erupts. When greatness is threatened, the fight turns ferocious. Gloves came off, rules bent, and history was rewritten on a single disputed lap. This rivalry proves when legends collide, Formula One becomes pure combat, and even the finish line offers no truce.